There's no disputing that all F1 and beyond are focused on Lewis Hamilton's imminent Ferrari debut, which will reportedly take place next week. There are reports that the police have had to plan how to manage the Ferrari tifosi that are expected to attend his much-anticipated first test at Maranello, as Hamilton mania is sweeping through Italy. Outside of F1, there are reports of the date he went on with A-list Hollywood actress Sofia Vergara. Now, why this should be news is beyond us, but never mind, it shows clearly that the media are feverishly scratching around for sensational stories about the GOAT, clickbait or not. It is not surprising that when it comes to crying wolf about the GOAT, the leader of the pack is none other than his self-declared friend Toto, whose self-proclaimed integrity is beyond reproach. Piers Morgan, eat your heart out. And true to form, Toto is the source of the latest sensational headlines, crying wolf about the impending Fiorano debut. But, before going further, we would like to urge those of you who haven't yet done so, to sign our online petition for an inquiry into the BBC and Channel 4's coverage of Lewis Hamilton and Abu Dhabi. A link has been provided in the description. If you are on X, then please repost our tweet. Thank you. Despite having been eviscerated on social media, and shown up for the wolf that he truly is, Toto, either in denial or delusion, continues to perceive himself as something other than an LHDS-afflicted talking head. We have documented his tactic of smearing the GOAT by making baseless and unsubstantiated claims to complicit media acolytes that are subsequently spread through connected platforms. Well, here he is again, trying to rain on Sir Lewis's parade, less than a month after declaring an undying friendship that would continue forever. This time around, as you can see in the top left-hand corner of the screen, is the report of the interview that Toto gave to the German media, Auto Motor und Sport. In that interview he made several sensational, untrue and unchallenged comments, which were then transmitted through other platforms faster than you can cry wolf. He sensationally claimed that he never planned to sign Crashtapen, despite many public reports and interviews on the subject last year. He also sensationally claimed that Mercedes weren't expecting great things from the driver that he kicked Sir Lewis out for, despite howling from the rooftops that they were, last year. So, you can see how Toto, with no respect for the truth or himself, like Eddie, Andy and Marty, has developed a reputation as a go-to source for unscrupulous headline hunters. Critically, the Crashtapen and Antonelli headlines displayed on the search page are the same headlines that come up when you click onto the news page. So, the sensationalism is clearly about Toto recanting his highly publicized earlier statement. But, in the case of Sir Lewis, the headline and sensationalism are insidiously multi-layered, highlighting the depth of the collusion between him and the media when it comes to spreading harmful misinformation about his friend. The Hamilton search engine headline refers to Toto uncovering his friend's weakness, while rejecting another theory about him. Let us set aside the fallacy of someone publicly revealing your weakness calling himself a friend, because we all know that when it comes to Sir Lewis there are no boundaries to being unhinged. In reality, the search engine headline is a clickbait, because when you click on it, it takes you to an article with a different headline and content spreading misinformation. Toto debunked a baseless theory quite alright, but he wasn't uncovering any weakness, he was embellishing another baseless theory, that Mercedes themselves started promoting last year, after the GOAT informed them of his departure to Ferrari. It is no coincidence that Toto is the one reviving that baseless theory on the eve of Sir Lewis's debut at Ferrari. He was the one who finally had to admit responsibility for delaying the debut from last month, after initially falsely representing that both parties had been in agreement. This is who Toto is, a consummate and unabashed liar, who will say anything to anyone. The fact that his media acolyte Planet F1 used a clickbait to give the misleading impression that Toto was uncovering something that they knew the Mercedes trackside engineering director had been promoting last year, is evidence of the collusion between them. Critically, the Mercedes claim is contrary to available evidence. For the record, the new regulations introduced in 2022 were targeted specifically at undermining the Mercedes and Sir Lewis dominance, in much the same way that the regulatory changes introduced in 2005 had targeted the Ferrari and Michael Schumacher dominance. Notably, the Michael and Ferrari dominance ended in 2005, and he retired the following year, without adding to his record-breaking title haul. Ironically, Ferrari returned to winning ways in 2007 and 2008, but have been barren since then. Sadly, the Michael and Ferrari history formed the basis of the fake story that Mercedes planted 3 years after their dominance had been ended by a similar tactic. Mercedes are on record admitting that their car has been poor for the entire period of the new regulations. 2022 was an unmitigated disaster, as the car struggled with porpoising, poor ground effect aerodynamics and engine reliability. Unsurprisingly, they came third in the constructors' table with George finishing in fourth, 2 places ahead of Sir Lewis, who after overcoming the devastating end to 2021, suffered more from the porpoising and engine reliability. However, when the porpoising issues improved the following season, the GOAT finished third, despite the car still underperforming. A result that placed him at the top of the drivers' table excluding the doped-up Red Bull. Thanks primarily to Sir Lewis's contribution, Mercedes also improved 1 position, but George dropped down to 8. So, against this background, it is not possible to argue that the GOAT was the worst affected by the new regulations because of his driving style. We have been unable to find any references to him struggling with the ground effect cars because of his driving style, before 2024, and would ask anyone who can or has, to please provide us with the link. Surprise, surprise, these articles conveniently started appearing after he had announced his departure to Ferrari, and Mercedes started sabotaging his final season. And who was the sole source of this counterfactual notion? Yes, that would be the silver-arrowed saboteur. True to type, Toto sent Andrew Shovlin out to damn Sir Lewis with faint praise, so he could pretend that his hands were clean, Don Barzini style. Conveniently, at the time Andrew was spreading the poison, George was ahead of a heavily sabotaged GOAT. But we all saw how the GOAT was able to turn things around, forcing Mercedes to double up on the sabotage, to fit their toxic narrative. Now that the moment of truth is nigh, a desperate Toto is back to his old tricks of undermining his friend. Unfortunately for him, this time around, once Sir Lewis's Ferrari debut confirms that it was never down to his driving style, Toto will be unable to point the finger at Andrew alone. Forza Ferrari.